But ذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين. We have to remind each other, and we have to figure out the keys. And the problem we have is we always say the same thing. We need to return to the book of Allah, and we need to return to the sunnah of Allah. But then we don't do, and we don't return. And if someone does, then maybe his family will be the first enemies of him. And if the whole family does, maybe the rest of their family, extended family, will fight them. And maybe if the whole family, then the neighbor and the society. Then we have to be aware of that calamity and the predicament that we are living in. And we have to find a solution for it. And you find a solution when you study the seerah, and when you study the life of those who came before, and those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the dunya and the akhirah, because they were truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were truthful, and what was in their heart was on their tongues, and what they said was coming out of their hearts. They were sincere into the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wanted to serve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for a benefit, not for a monetary benefit, not for a position, not for authority, not for power, not for gain, not for reputation, none of that. They wanted to serve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they wanted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wanted to serve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they wanted to be in Firdaus al-A'la. So when you look at them, then you know where you stand, and you know why what happened to them is not happening to us, and what's happening to them and what happened to them can happen to us if we are like them. إِنَّ التَّشَبُّهَ بِالْكِرَامِ فَلَاحُ. You try to be at least like them. Maybe you can never reach the level they reach. Maybe. And most probably we won't. But you try to be like them. And that is enough. Didn't you hear the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that no one is used to stand and to pray in the middle of the night, used to it, and then he gets sick and he can't wake up to pray, or he's sick, he cannot get up to pray that specific time, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it to him and will write it for him as if he had prayed. That is because of his intention. And you didn't hear the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he who intends to do something good and he doesn't do it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write it for him. من هم بحسنة فعملها كتبت له عشرة ومن هم بحسنة فلم يعملها كتبت له حسنة. So you can see that with the intention you can reach way beyond those who don't have intention. Even you might not be given the tawfiq to fulfill the goals and the actions behind your intentions, yet because your intention is sincere with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give you and will grant you the reward of that. That is why we need to understand the himam they had, and we need to understand the morale they had, and the very determinations that we are lacking. That is the problem. The one of us might start doing the good thing and then he get lazy, he get frustrated, he despairs, he get tired, he run out of resources, he run out of help, then he gives up and he doesn't want to continue. The one of us might start to memorize some of the surah because his intention to memorize the whole Quran. Then he gets tired, he gets busy, and he forget about it. He might memorize a juz'u or two juz'u, and then he will quit. He might start in a project to serve the ummah and the deen of Allah, then he quits. That is a problem that we have, and I'm sure you all have it, because I know that I have it myself. So we need to understand why they were able to continue, and why they were persistent, and why they were continuous in their actions and never gave up, because they knew exactly what their goal was. They knew exactly where they were heading and where they wanted to be. That's why one of the key success for all these organizations and big corporations and big companies, one of their secrets for success is they know where they want to be in 20 years. They know where they want to be in 30 years. If you think that Microsoft or Windows 7 is something that they just thought about this year, then you are wrong. They have idea about it and they have plans for it for years and years. And that's how they work. And our life in this dunya is tijara. And that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it. هَلْ أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى تِجَارَةٍ تُنْجِيكُمْ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, shouldn't I guide you and invite you and tell you about some kind of business that will save you from severe punishment? You believe in Allah and you sacrifice yourself and your wealth for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So very important, we need to understand that. And we need to have the determination and the will. That is why when Urwa ibn Zubayr and Mus'ab ibn Zubayr and Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, were sitting together. And then Mus'ab said, "Tamannaw." He tells the group with him, the other 3 people, "Tamannaw." Wish for something. Let each one of you wish for something. فقالوا ابدأ أنت. You start. فقال مصعب أتمنى, and that is Mus'ab, the son of Zubair ibn al-Awwam, حواري النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, you start. He said, أتمنى ولاية العراق وأن أنكح سكينة بنت الحسين وعائشة بنت طلحة بن عبيد الله. فكان له ذلك وأمهرهن ب500,000 درهم وجهزهن بمثلهن. He wished to be in charge and the ruler of Iraq, and he got that. He wished to marry Sukayna bint al-Husayn bint Ali, the great granddaughter of the Prophet ﷺ, and he got that. He wished to marry Aisha bint Talha ibn Ubaidillah. Aisha, her father is one of the 10 people given the news of paradise, and he married that. And their dowry was each one 500,000 dirham, and he prepared them with another 500,000. And then Urwa ibn Zubayr rahimahullah, he said, أتمنى الفقه وأن يؤخذ عني الحديث. He wished that Allah gives him the knowledge of al-fiqh and gives him the knowledge that people will narrate the hadith from him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to him. No book of hadith and no chain of hadith, but you will find the name of Urwa in a lot of them. So very important, and Allah gave him that. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan wished for al-Khilafah, and you all know that he was the Khalifa of the Muslims at one point. And when it was the turn for Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, أتمنى الجنة. When it was the turn of Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, I wish for paradise. We don't know if he got it or he didn't, but what we know about him and what we know about what the Prophet ﷺ said about him, then we hope that he is in paradise. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with him in Jannah, in Firdaus al-A'la. So these are people for different people at the same time, in the same setting, and each one has different levels of hopes and different levels of wishes. And that's how people are. And this is nature. Everyone has different determinations, and everyone works on different levels. But the goal is one. Our goal needs to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the purpose of your life. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. They're only commanded to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يقول الله تعالى وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى. And to your Lord is the return. That is the goal. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I only created them to establish the Tawheed and to worship me. قال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما ليعبدون أي ليوحدون. To establish the monotheism and to establish the Tawheed and the oneness of Allah in al-ibadah and al-asma' wal-sifat and Tawheed al-ubudiyya wa Tawheed al-rububiyya lillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is very important to know your goal. So if you know where your target is, and if you know where you want to be, then you know which path to take. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ. This is my path, straight path. Follow it and don't follow any other way. That is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is Sirat al-Mustaqim. So very important that we need to be, and we need to have the enthusiasm, and we need to have the morale, and we need to have the energy to establish that goal. Such thing cannot be achieved by you sitting, crossing your legs on a couch. You can never get anywhere with that. It doesn't reach by you sleeping most of your time. You'll never get there. It's not reached by busying yourself your whole life with the dunya and forgetting about your akhirah. كما قيل النعيم لا يدرك بالنعيم. Pleasure cannot be achieved through pleasure. And even if you look at it at worldly level, people who are comfortable, people who have money, people who are comfortable in their life and they have achieved high positions, high authority, whatever the situation is, they are rich, whatever we want to look at and the level of comfort, they had to work for it. Most of them had to work for it. And if they did not have to work for it and they inherited it, then most probably their father did work for it. So imagine when in Na'im that we are talking about is al-Akhirah and al-Jannah. You got to work for it in this dunya. You cannot get there sleeping. You cannot get there being comfortable and just do